With Google Ads, your keywords can be perfect, your targeting can be dialed in, and your budget can be totally fine. But if your ad copy doesn't make people actually want to click on your ads, the whole campaign is going to struggle. So in this video, I'm going to show you how to write ad copy that gets tested the right way, the types of headlines and descriptions that you actually want in your ads, and how to keep A/B testing or split testing once you have enough data to figure out what's really working. So let's start with why ad copy matters so much in the first place. So a lot of people will assume that Google Ads performance comes down to your keywords, the budget, and the bidding strategy. And yes, all of those things do matter, but your ad copy is the one thing that actually connects the searcher to your business. So someone types something into Google because they need help or a specific service. So maybe they're looking for a dentist or a plumber or a lawyer or whatever it is that you might offer. And then your ad shows up. And in that moment, they're making a really quick decision on, is this what I'm looking for? Does this business seem relevant? And do I trust it enough to click? So it is the one thing trying to entice people to click on your ad and hire you. So if your copy doesn't speak to what they searched for, or if it feels boring, or if it sounds exactly like every other ad on that page, they're probably just going to end up scrolling right past. Or even worse, they might click and not be your ideal client at all. And that distinction actually matters a bit because good ad copy isn't just going to get more clicks, it's about getting the right people to click on your ad as well. So you don't want just anyone clicking on your ad because you are paying for that click. You want the people who are actually likely to become a lead or book an appointment or call you. So your ad copy is doing all of those jobs at once. So it has to be relevant to what the searcher is looking for. It has to give someone a reason to choose you over the other businesses listed. And it has to set the right expectation before they ever land on your website. And then from a statistical side of Google Ads, the better your ad copy is, the better your click-through rate becomes, and the lower your cost per click is. So writing good ad copy not only gets you better leads, it gets you more leads at a lower cost too. Now, the type of ad that we're mostly talking about when we are talking about ad copy is a responsive search ad. And so these are the ads that show up in Google search when somebody is searching for something. And with the responsive search ads, you can add up to 15 headlines and 4 descriptions. And so what Google will do is then it will rotate through all of those headlines and descriptions. It'll test different combinations, and it is trying to see what people are most likely to click on. So instead of writing one fixed ad where headline 1 always comes first and then headline 2 always comes second, you're really just handing Google a box of different pieces to mix and match together. And so that means that every piece has to make sense on its own because it's not always showing up with the same headlines. You don't know which headlines Google is going to pair together in that moment, unless you're pinning something in place. Google is going to shuffle those assets around, try to test different combinations, and really try to figure out what works. So each headline should stand on its own, and each description should stand on its own as well. And the combinations should still make sense even when Google doesn't show them in the order that you had in your head. And so that brings us to one of the biggest questions that people always ask when they're building out their ads. Should you max out all of the headlines and description slots? So should you use all 15 headline slots? And my answer is usually no. And I know that goes against what Google kind of nudges you towards to do inside of the dashboard. So when you are building your ad, I'm sure you've noticed that there's the ad strength meter at the top. And the more headlines and descriptions that you add, the more likely it is that your ad becomes excellent. So a lot of people will then fill in all of the slots to reach that excellent mark. And on the surface, it does kind of make sense. So you add more headlines, it means more options. More options means more testing, and then more testing means better results. But that's not exactly how it works, because the more headlines and descriptions that you give Google, the more possible combinations it has to test, which actually extends the test period or makes it so that a lot of the headlines never get the chance to show. So if you use 15 headlines, there are potentially thousands of different combinations that Google can play with to show when your ad serves. And so I recently went to a talk from another Google Ads educator, and he put this in a way that really stuck with me, so I thought I would share it here. With 15 headlines, if they're all unpinned, you're looking at around 2,955 possible combinations for Google to play with. And like everything in Google Ads, you need data to make good decisions. So you can't show a headline twice and call it a winner. You need enough impressions and clicks and conversions to actually see a pattern with that headline. Okay, so we have a possible of 2,955 combinations for Google to choose from and test. And so the rule of thumb that he shared was that ideally you want each headline to get around 100 impressions so that you can truly see if it's working or not. So now let's say that your ad gets 10,000 impressions a month, which honestly for a local business is on the high side. At that rate, it would take 2.4 years to gather enough data across all of those combinations for you to see which headlines are working and which ones aren't. So that's a huge take-home point. The more options you give to Google to test, the more it actually slows down your learning or your testing periods. When you max out every slot just because Google promised that your ad strength would go up, you might be making it harder for Google to figure out what's actually working. And that's a big reason why I don't usually get too caught up in the ad strength, because ad strength does not dictate performance. Just because it shows excellent does not mean that it is going to work. And at the end of the day, it all comes down to your click-through rate, your conversion rate, your cost per conversion, and which ad is driving you leads. And honestly, some of my best performing ads for my clients are rated as poor, but they have a stronger click-through rate, they have solid conversions, good leads walking in the door. And at the end of the day, that's really what matters. So instead of maxing everything out, I'd much rather give Google a smaller set of strong, intentional headlines. And that's the next mistake that I see a lot of people make. They will add in headlines just for the sake of having more, but they're weak or they're very similar to other headlines or they don't make sense. So that brings us to the next point, which is what type of headlines should you be including in your ads? And I like to think about it in different categories where each type of headline or description is doing a different job. And so the first type of headline is your keyword or your relevancy headline. So this is the one that directly matches what someone searched for. If you are a dentist and the keyword that you are bidding on is dentist near me, then your headline might be trusted dentist in Burlington. Or if you're a plumber and the keyword is emergency plumber, then your headline might be emergency plumber in Oakville. And I know these aren't the most creative headlines in the world, and that's honestly completely fine. Their whole job is to tell the person that yes, you are in the right place and what you are searching for, we do exactly. Because when someone is scanning a page of results, finding a headline that is relevant to what they have searched for is everything. And so the second type of headline is a benefit statement. And this is where you communicate the outcome that the customer actually wants. You want to evoke some sort of feeling or emotion. People aren't really shopping for a service, they're shopping for the result of that service. So back to our dentist, you might use something like smile with confidence. Although I'll be honest, that one's wildly overused at this point, but it does get the point across. Or a plumber might say, get your leak fixed fast. A contractor might say, upgrade your home without the stress. The point is, you're not describing the service, you're connecting it to the thing that they actually care about, which is the outcome that they are going to get. Just keep it specific because vague benefits don't really do much. Something like better service is technically a benefit, but better than what and better how? Whereas something like same day repairs available or book your appointment online, that gives them something concrete to hold on to. And don't be afraid to show some personality in the ad copy as well, especially with the benefits. If you want to be a little bit funny or be a little bit sassy, feel free to test those. The third type of headlines is your authority copy. And so this is where you are showing someone why they should trust you over the business that was listed right below you. And this is where you get to brag a little bit. Not in an obnoxious way, but if you've earned something that makes you more credible than other businesses, use it. So this could be something like family owned and operated, 10,000 happy customers, licensed and insured, or serving Burlington since 2008. For a lot of local service businesses, trust is a huge piece of the decision. So people aren't just hunting for the cheapest option, they're choosing the business that they feel most comfortable with or that they trust the most. So if you've got proof that helps to build that trust, put it to work. And the fourth type is a call to action headline. This is where you tell people exactly what you want them to do next. And I know that sounds obvious, but a lot of people miss this one. The person doing the search is scanning multiple ads, they're comparing options, they're half distracted. So you want to make that next step crystal clear. So things like schedule a free consult, request a free estimate, book your appointment online. You don't need every headline to be a call to action, but you do usually want to pepper in at least one or two clear ones in the mix with your other headlines. And the more specific, the better. A generic call us or contact us is fine, but request a free estimate is stronger because it tells them exactly what they're going to get when they contact you. And the fifth type is what I would call a friction remover or qualifiers. And these are the little details that answer a very common question or objection that you might get before someone even clicks on the ad. For example, a big barrier for a lot of medical professionals, especially a dentist, is do they take insurance? So if you do accept most insurances, you can put that right in the headlines. Or for big ticket items, a lot of the time people have to finance that purchase. So if that's something that you offer as well, mention it in the headlines. These can be surprisingly powerful because they do help to improve the lead quality. So if someone needs a Saturday appointment and your ad says open Saturdays, that might be the exact reason why they click on you instead of the other businesses listed on Google. Now, one more thing here, your ad is not just about headlines and descriptions. Obviously, those are important, but the full ad experience can include a lot more. So your site links, your call outs, your call asset, your location assets, your images, your business name, your logo, all of that can influence whether somebody clicks on your ad or not. So don't pour all of your energy into the headlines and then ignore everything else. If you've got a site link for pricing or services or reviews, all of that support your main ad in your headlines and descriptions. Now, when it comes to actually writing the headlines, a lot of the times it can be hard to get some inspiration. And honestly, this is where I personally lean on AI tools the most, like Claude. Not to necessarily write the perfect ad on the first try, but to help me brainstorm angles when my brain has decided that every headline just sounds the same. So I'll ask it for headline ideas built around benefits, authority, urgency, convenience, or trust, and then I'll take the best ones that I like the most and clean them up a little bit. Okay, so now that we've covered what to include, let's talk about how to actually set this up when you're launching a new campaign. So when you first launch a campaign, you want to start with 2 ads per ad group. And the idea is to give Google a couple of different ads to test without spreading your data so thin that nothing ever reaches a conclusion. So for the first ad, I might mix keyword relevance, authority, and a call to action. And then in the second ad, I'll test a different angle like benefits, convenience, and a different call to action. For example, one ad might lean into trust with headlines around being local, experienced, highly rated, family owned, whereas then the second might lean into convenience with headlines around same-day appointments or online booking, free estimates, or fast service. Now, technically, this is not the cleanest A/B test because in a textbook A/B test, you should really only be changing one variable at a time. That way, when one version clearly wins, you know why. But when I'm first launching a campaign, I'm not necessarily chasing the perfect experiment, I'm chasing data. So I want to see what angles people are responding the best to and what Google starts favoring, what is getting clicks, and what is actually bringing in conversions. So at the very beginning, it's okay for the test to be a little bit broader. And then once you've got data coming in, that's when you can tighten it up and get a little bit more controlled with your messaging. So once you launch, you need to give the ads enough time to gather that real data. And for a lot of local campaigns, I like to give it around 2.5 to 3 months to really get a clear picture, depending on how many impressions and clicks the account is getting. So that doesn't mean that you completely ignore the account for those 2 to 3 months. You're still checking the search terms and doing all of your other optimizations. But for the ad copy itself, you don't want to be tinkering every few days because Google needs time to test those different combinations. And as your ads run, Google starts rotating through the different headlines and descriptions. And then over time, you'll notice that certain assets start to get more impressions than others. And that's Google finding the combination that it thinks will perform the best and then leaning into that. You can also check the asset performance report to see how your headlines and descriptions are being rated or how they are performing. And then you can also look at the different combinations in a combinations report to see which ones are showing together. So once you've got enough data and a clear winner starts to emerge, then you can kick off the next round of testing. So let's say that you launch the 2 ads in your ad group, you've let them run, and after enough time, one is clearly outperforming the other. It is getting a better click-through rate, more conversions, a better conversion rate at a lower cost per conversion, and the other one is lagging. So then at that point, I would pause the weaker ad. And so then now you have your winner. But you don't just stop there. So then what you do next is you want to use that winner as your new control and continue testing. So what I would do is you duplicate the winning ad and then change one thing in the ad copy, and only one thing. Because if you duplicate the winner and then you start changing the call to action, the benefits, the authority headlines, the descriptions, and pinning everything all at once, and it does better, you have no idea why. Was it the new call to action? Was it the benefit? Was it the pinning? Was it random luck? You'll honestly never really know. But if you change one thing, the test starts to get a little bit cleaner. So what sorts of things can you test when you are split testing? One of the first things that I like to test is pinning headlines. Pinning lets you lock certain headlines into certain positions. So I like to pin the keyword focused headlines into position 1. So that is the very first thing that the searcher is seeing, and it always matches what they are searched for. Then I like to pin the call to actions to position 2. I do this because sometimes Google will show 3 headlines, sometimes it will only show 2. And so I want to make sure that there is always a call to action showing. And so I will pin it in position 2. And then I pin the benefit or the authority headlines into position 3. And so now the ad has this consistent structure where position 1 says what you do, position 2 says what to do next, and position 3 gives them a reason to choose you. You don't always have to pin, and sometimes if you do pin too aggressively, you do limit Google's flexibility, but it is great when you want more control over the message, and it also shrinks the amount of combinations that Google has to choose from to test, which can help get you data a lot quicker as well. I do always make sure that I have at least 2 to 3 types of headlines pinned in each position. So it is not only just one headline in position 1, one headline in position 2. Another thing that you can test is dynamic keyword insertion. And so this is where Google drops the keyword that triggered your ad straight into the headline. And so this can make the ad feel incredibly relevant to what the searcher is looking for. The dynamic keyword insertion works best when your ad group is tightly themed. So if your ad group is a grab bag of different keywords with different intents, that inserted keyword can sometimes come out awkward or off topic. So it's useful, but it's not necessarily something that I would switch over if the account structure isn't there yet. You can also test location insertion, and this lets Google insert the searcher's city, their state, or their country into the ad itself as well. So for businesses that serve a wide area, this one works really well because sometimes people are looking for local businesses. So instead of having headlines that speak to like landscaper in Burlington and then landscaper in Oakville, you can use a location insertion that matches the headline to their city. You can also test specific offers or qualifiers against one another, like free estimate versus same-day service, or book online versus call for a free quote, or financing available versus licensed and insured. These small swaps can move the needle because they speak to different motivations. So some people care most about speed, some about trust, some about cost, some about convenience. So your job is to figure out which message gets the right people to take action on your ad. Now, as you keep testing, you want to get really clear on what a winning ad actually means. Because like I said, a win isn't necessarily a higher click-through rate. A higher click-through rate is nice. That means more people are clicking on your ad. It means that your ad is more appealing or more relevant to them. But if those extra clicks come with a lower conversion rate or lower quality of conversions, it might not actually be better. So you do want to look at the full picture. Is the ad getting clicks? Are those clicks turning into conversions? And are those conversions affordable? And when you look at the actual leads, are they the kind of leads that you actually want? So whenever you can, you want to connect your ad performance back to real lead quality. You're not just trying to get the most clicks, you're trying to get the right clicks. And that's why ad copy testing isn't necessarily a one-time thing. Split testing or A/B testing is an ongoing task. And over time, the campaign starts to get more and more dialed in. And it's rarely one giant change that fixes everything. It's usually a stack of these small improvements over time that really start to make a campaign perform really well. And it's why Google is never really a set it and forget it. It's more of a set it up, watch what happens, and read the data, see what it is trying to tell you, and then pivot. And one thing to keep in mind as we wrap this up, even the best ad copy can only do so much if the landing page does not match. If your ad says request a free estimate, but the landing page makes it nearly impossible to do that, that's a problem. If your ad talks about emergency service, but the landing page never mentions it, that's a problem too. And so you can attract the right person and still lose them if your landing page or your website doesn't carry the same message throughout the journey. So the ad copy gets the click. The landing page is what turns that click into a conversion. And that's why your message has to stay consistent from the keyword to the ad to the landing page. So when all three of those line up, the person feels like they found exactly what they were looking for. So if you want to know what should actually be on your landing page and how to create a highly optimized page for conversions, click right here to watch my video on how to create a good landing page, and I'll see you over there.